You're listening to the Service Business Marketing Podcast, a podcast dedicated to helping your service-based business grow and thrive using the latest technology in internet marketing. And now, here's the host of our show and the CEO of Grow Inc., Matt Law.
All right, everyone, welcome back to another training episode. I am super glad that you are here because this is going to be one of the most probably important podcasts I will do in 2025. There are some big new changes with Meta ads, and it's allowing our clients to get a lot of leads at a much lower cost than ever before. I'm super excited to share this with you. And here's the truth. You don't need fancy brand awareness on Meta or Facebook or Instagram. What you need is qualified leads that turned into booked jobs. And that only happens when you have your creative, your form, your follow-up, and everything working together. And that is what we are going to cover today. Now, let me start off by telling you, in our previous agency, I spent well over $500,000 in Meta ads. And so I know a lot about it, but I know a lot about the old way. And I haven't until the last year spent a lot of client dollars on Meta ads because it was very difficult to win in all industries. And here's why. Because previously you had to select your audience. You had to select in market for, like their segment or who they were, like homeowners or different categories of income, all of these things that they would list out, and then you would build an audience. Well, now with Meta's new AI targeting, your creative, the ad, the video, the copy, that now determines who you are able to target. And so it's called Advantage Plus targeting, and there's a couple things we'll talk about with that today. But here's the good news. Now, if you're targeting a very small segment and it, in your industry previously wasn't in Meta, now you can find those people. And I'll give you an example. So say you are a swimming pool builder. Just give you an example. That's an industry that we serve. In the swimming pool builder, maybe you don't want to do like repairs. And now your ad could say, instead of previously you would have to select a category, their interest in swimming pools, and it would show it to everyone. Now your ad could say something like interested in a new swimming pool, and it will only target those that are looking to build a new swimming pool. So think about all the industries that are out there that we serve. Like you can target them very, very specifically. So your creative now determines who your audience is. So here's my promise today. I'm going to walk you through the ultimate setup, the same framework we use at Grow Inc. that consistently brings in high quality leads for service businesses just like yours. So let me say this. I know we're very good at SEO, PPC, local search, and email automation and growing business without Meta. We're very good, and we've had companies grow by 400% without using Meta. But I'm going to tell you, now that we've unlocked and really have dialed in this new lead source, I'm telling you it's going to get crazy for our clients. And I'm very excited to share with you just kind of some of the new things that we've discovered. And you have to also realize there's been some major changes to Meta over the last few months and in the last 6 months that are making all of this possible. So I do imagine that some of our clients will be pulling capital away from Google Ads because the cost per leads and the quality of leads are now much better on Meta. So regardless of your past, trying Facebook or Meta leads or what you spent on Google, I'm going to walk you through what we are doing to set up clients on Meta right now and tell you about some of their return. And then I'm going to talk to you about how we figure out the best ROI between the two to determine where we should spend our marketing dollars. So here's what we're going to talk about today. The first thing I'm going to talk to you about is a creative, which is your ad, and I'm going to talk to you about what we are doing for the creative. Then I'm going to talk to you about the web forms, which is Meta's form fills that you can build. I'm going to tell you how we are building them so that you get the highest quality of a lead available. I'm going to talk to you about follow-up and how you can use a CRM or some sort of automation system to make sure that you can get in touch with those leads very, very fast so you turn the form fills into appointments. And then I'm going to talk to you about pixel tracking and how you can make sure you have a pixel on your website so that you can remarket to those people that didn't fill out the form, and all of the traffic that comes from other forms of marketing such as Google Ads or Google Local or SEO. Lastly, we'll talk about return on investment. I'll tell you what we're seeing for cost per lead across some industries, and realistically what you should expect when everything is dialed in. Now, with that said, with the ROI, you are going to figure out what is the best over a period of time, and then you may reallocate money away from Google or into Meta. So let's start at the beginning, and we're going to talk about your creative, because if your ads aren't good and they don't get people to stop scrolling, none of the rest even matters. So let's talk about your creative. And the good thing, if you remember, I said your creative is now your audience. So it's your audience, and Meta doesn't rely on interest anymore. You can add that to your audience if you want. But if you have Advantage Plus turned on, or even if you don't, it relies on what your ad says. So it's what's in your video, it's what's in the copy, it's what's in the text, it's all of that. So in the old days, remember, Meta audiences were built around interests. You picked homeowner, remodeling, flooring, whatever your industry is. Now Meta is using AI creative signals. So they're looking at the text, the visuals, the engagement patterns to find people who care about your message. And so your ad determines who sees it. So your creatives now must clearly communicate what you do and why it matters. And this is really important, what you put in the text, like attention homeowners, attention, and we're going to get into this. So what kind of ads should you create? And so this is what we have been testing and what we see very, very effective. What's great about this is when someone sees your ad one time, all right, and they experience it, when you're first setting up a campaign, we usually create 2 short videos, which are 15 to 30 seconds, maybe a minute at the most each. And these videos usually a lot of times we're using like AI videos. Sometimes we are building the videos ourselves. Sometimes it's a client. And basically they're talking to the camera, saying who they are, what they do, and why they're different. So they're sharing their unique selling points. We also will provide static images, which will be a picture of like whatever product they're using. It may have some text over it, like warranties, experts, things like that on there. Sometimes it can be a picture of the owner or their team. So sometimes we'll have photo shoots being done for our clients, and we'll get these pictures. And a lot of times they're just uploading all of their stuff to our Dropbox folder, and we're building it. So either way, you just got to realize you're going to have some video and you are going to have static images, and we're going to test to see which works better. And so inside of the ad creative that you are building, there is a section where you put the primary text. And what we have found that works is if you will do long copy in that section, not just a headline, right? You can generate a ton of interest. And remember, because your ad now is determining who sees it, you can say attention, and really say in search for a new, whatever your industry is looking for. So whether if you're a plumber, hot water heaters, if you're a swimming pool builder, like in need of a pool, just think about your industry. It will target right to that, which is really, really, really powerful. Now you can also go into the audience and you can narrow down your zip codes and all of that. So you can do great targeting to make sure you're reaching the right people. But remember, this long copy is where it's going to really determine who sees it. And this is also your hook. And so you want to say something like, if you're doing an ad for a flooring business, you can talk about how most companies are overcharging because they have to pay for the overhead of their showroom. And so what we'll basically do is find the company's unique selling points, pull them into here, and then look at how we can beat out and separate ourselves from the competitor. We usually do long copy in the form of the owner, and we talk about who they are, and we also target specific areas. So if it's like a city, we'll say, hey, this city homeowner. So we'll talk specifically to that city or to that county. And then at the end of the long copy, here's what we do is you're going to ask people to get their free quote or their free, resources to get started. So we make it very conversational. We use emojis. It feels very personal, and it's like no pressure, feel the love. We're ready to work with you. It's all about a fair deal, and it's centered around how we are going to give them a fair deal. So let me just say, if you are a high pressure sales guy, or you have a tendency to take advantage of your customers and you're the most expensive, this probably won't work for you. Because there has to be a level of authenticity. And so most of our clients that we work with, they're definitely not the cheapest, but they're fair price. They're investing in their marketing and they're fair in the price. So they're not spending a fortune on marketing and having to rip people off is what I'm saying. They're fair price. So it's very conversational, very authentic from the business owner. Hey, we'll come out, we'll help. We're here to serve. We're not going to be the highest. We're not going to be the lowest, but you're not going to be ripped off. And what ends up happening with this authentic long copy, people will read through and then they'll click over and they'll fill out the form. So the goal, and this is your cold audience, the goal is not to sell them immediately. The copy is to attract the right people so Meta learns who converts. And so as Meta AI learns who fills out the forms, then they go and they say, hey, this type of activity, they're interested in this, and it will start targeting more people. So the more people who watch and engage and fill out forms and click, that's how you build your list so Meta knows what's working. Now, a few times we've launched these and it has not found the right people right away, or we got some really trashy leads, and then you have to kind of start over until it learns the right way. But once you get things set up and it's rolling, then the leads really start coming through. And I'll talk about that at the end. So here's some mistakes to avoid in your creative if you're doing this. If you're doing really short text, or your text doesn't have information on what people may be looking for, or it's it's not related to what you're doing, it's not going to work. So your text on the copy and your headlines and all that should be directed to exactly what you want, like attention, this person, in search of this. These are great. The other thing is using stock photos with no text. Not helpful because Meta is looking at that, and videos that are just, without somebody talking. And listen, they don't have to be professional videos. You're looking for you, the business owner, talking to them. Hey, looking for this. And so you're really targeting, authenticity, business, service business. Think about that. You can mix in some B-roll with the videos and have a video person do that. We're doing that. But here's what I'm going to tell you. 2 videos, 2 image ads, and then you launch it. And what you're looking for is a control. And it's called Campaign Budget Optimization, or CBO. And if that is turned on, whatever your best creative is going to get the most impressions, and that's going to begin to work. So let me just tell you, get your creatives ready, and then you're going to turn it on and you're going to give Meta a chance to learn. Most important thing is your creative. Now, I will tell you there are some audience controls that you can do on your Meta ad. And one thing you may want to do is really target the cities and areas. And there's a setting on there. You kind of have to dig down, but you want to say, don't go outside of these areas. And so, but we don't turn on any other targeting such as age or anything like that. Income, you can put something in there as a suggestion, but really Meta is going to find out exactly who is responding to your ads. And so you don't really have to worry about that. You'll actually get a lower cost per lead by not doing that. Now, how do you get the lead, Matt? That's the next question. So next thing I want to talk to you about is web forms. And here is the best news of all. Recently, Meta implemented a 2-factor authentication where leads can basically fill out a form right on Meta, and then it will make them verify their phone number before the lead is submitted. So that means no more spam. So we tested this last year and we generated a ton of leads for clients, and a lot of them were bad. And it was because the two-factor authentication with the phone number wasn't a requirement. And so a lot of bots were filling this out. And so now it has to be an accurate phone number. So this is really a game changer. We've always done it where they could go over to a website and fill out a form, but it's so much easier for most businesses, and the speed to live is so much faster by just doing Meta form fills. The cost per lead is less, and now the quality is a lot higher. So this is the secret part. You've got a great creative. Now, how do you get the lead? All right. So we are going to use Meta Forms, all right, which is the Facebook forms that they can fill out right on Facebook. So most contractors are still using the short one-click lead forms without two-factor authentication because they want more leads. The problem is these forms bring in almost anyone, a lot of fake numbers, and like I told you, even bots. You will get a lower cost per lead, but you'll spend triple the time chasing bad ones. So what we are setting up now and testing right now is that to do a setup with higher intent, longer forms, verified contact information, and instead of going for the maximum amount of leads, it's the highest quality of leads. And what that is doing, it's leaving us with a much higher booking, like a booking to lead ratio. So like if we get, let's say we get 10 leads, we're going to have 5 appointments out of that. So it's much, much higher than just a ton of leads and none of them convert. So the solution for this on your forms, and I'll walk you through this, is turn on two-factor authentication. So they have to verify their phone number. When someone fills out their form before they submit it on Meta, they have to convert. So that will wipe out all of your junk leads, and all their information is still auto-filled, but now it's confirmed that they're real. And so if someone is doing that and giving you their phone number, it's a legit lead. In the forms, you can also select, I want the highest intent. So you're not focusing on the maximum number of leads. You're looking for people that are most likely to intent. And so they have to go through an extra review screen before they submit it. So it also, they can't just click, they have to swipe. And so it just really helps you to get a much, much better lead on your forms. Also, you can add extra questions. So another thing that we've done is we have asked them about their location, what they need, and just being very, very specific, like what type of project you are planning, where are you located, what city are you located, what's your preferred contact method. We're going to call them and text them and email them anyway, but still you can ask questions like this. It basically learns who's going to fill out your form, and you don't want to waste time with bad leads. So you make a better form, you brand it really well, you make it look really professional. And so once you have that set up, you are going to start getting leads come through your system. And so I will tell you, some companies have like a call center and they just want a ton of leads and they're going to call good and bad ones. If you have a call center or you have a customer service representative that is calling every lead to qualify and just try to manually, call as many people as possible, then you can test out some poor quality leads. But if you don't have a call center and you're like the business owner calling these people, then you absolutely positively need the highest quality leads. And so you want to make the form fills the highest quality, highest intent, which are people that are ready to buy, that more than likely you can get on the phone, that are going to answer or going to respond to your text. And as you go to the thank you screen, when they fill out that form, just a little bonus on here, you can tell them what to do next. You can also link over to your calendar if you have like a calendar integration where people can book online. A lot of times we set that up for clients where they have a Calendly or they're doing that through Go High Level. There's a couple options for that so they can book right away. Cool thing is you could wake up in the morning and you could have an appointment booked on your calendar ready for that day by having these Meta ads online. So the next part we want to talk about is the follow-up. And this is really where the money is actually made. And so let me give you a couple of examples. So let's say, you generate a lead online and you're busy, so you don't call them, or you don't have a calendar integration or anything. It's just emailing you the lead, and you're going to call them, and you think, hey, I've called them, but they haven't responded, and then they call you back and you miss it. Well, this is where a lot of things are lost in transition. And so what I need to tell you is that if you do ads and you don't have someone calling them to schedule them, you're going to be in trouble. If you don't have a follow-up system in place with somebody else, you're going to have a lower conversion rate of appointments. So most contractors and people I meet, they are used to people just calling them and saying, hey, I want to book. They pick up their phone and they get them on the calendar. So those are like Google inbound leads, search leads, referrals. And these are people saying, hey, I found you online. Can you come out and do whatever for me? So those are great leads, by the way. And whenever I do comparisons, a lot of times the inbound leads for example, with Google are going to be so much higher quality for a Google search ad, or where they visited the website, they filled out a form, or a local service ad. Any lead like that, they are reaching to you directly. And so those are going to be much, much higher quality. But if you get a lead that comes in through Meta, and remember, you're interrupting them, they're scrolling through social media and looking at, pictures and all kinds of stuff. You're interrupting them. They fill out a form. If you get that lead and it sits in your inbox for hours or even worse, days, you have to remember, these are warm leads, but they have a short attention span. And if you don't contact them almost immediately after they fill out the form, you have to remember there's other people now going to be targeting them because they filled out your form. So a slow response time is going to kill your ROI faster than a bad creative ever could. And so I'm going to give you some solutions of what works and hopefully walk you through this. So for some clients, they have a custom CRM. Some clients have, they're using a number one of contractor CRMs where they manage the project. And so what we suggest is that you build out a simple automation campaign for targeting and growing and nurturing your leads until they're ready to go to your CRM. One that works really well and one that we've been implementing and testing is Go High Level, which we are now we have an account where we can set up our clients as part of their package. And it works really good is because you can integrate Meta lead forms right into it. And so as soon as they're integrated, they can immediately get a text and an email. You can schedule a call through that system. It's easy to follow up, but you can also integrate it with your calendar booking link. So you can give them a link right to book on your calendar, which is super cool to do that. And it can integrate with Google Calendar and a number of different calendars. And then you can also do drip marketing where they could get emails with your unique selling points, voicemails, texts, all of that following up on autopilot. And then the person in your office, the only thing they have to do is call. Now, what happens when you book them? Well, once you book them into appointment, they get moved out of that campaign so that they're not getting communication. So Go High Level is a very affordable option. You could also do this manually with MailChimp, Klaviyo. There's a bunch of them that you could do, but just something that has built-in calendar integration is great. And then once they book, that's when we usually move them over to the client's CRM where they're doing estimates and invoices and all of that. So it's pretty cool how you can move it over to like ServiceTitan or Jobber or HubSpot or whatever you use. So another thing to point out is that the speed to lead is everything. So this sounds crazy, but in the daytime, they should get an instant 24 hours a day notification, text, email. But ideally, if you can call them within the first 5 or 10 minutes, like, when they come through, like that email comes through, your office person, or if it's you really should give them a call right away and say, hey, I just saw this come through. We'd love to get you scheduled, and call them right away. even if they don't answer the phone right away, they may not be able to if they're at work or something, like a lot of people are on social media at work. You still want to follow up. And I would say, hey, we're going to call them every day, multiple times a day, 2 or 3 times a day, until they book an appointment or they opt out and they say, hey, they're just not interested. Because when you send out your text, reply stop if you're not interested. So I'll give you a couple examples of texting. Hey, you filled out a form on Meta. Are you still interested? Oh, yeah. Hey, can we grab a quick call? Can I get you scheduled? You can text us back for what times work with you. So go high level in different messaging apps. You can message these prospects. And what's cool is you can schedule them to go out, but even better than that, well, some of the cool things is they can text you back when they want to schedule. So lots of ways to do this. And I don't want to overwhelm you with all the details, but for us, it's a really great creative and a couple videos. And then those are going to go into a form fill, which is going to go into go high level, which is going to trigger automation. And then hopefully the client is going to log in and call them very, very quickly. And they're going to use that system to follow up with those leads. Now, if they go have a different CRM, then we'll push them over at a certain phase, but it's really to really make sure we've got the best leads. Now, a lot of inbound leads from like Google or from organic, those are going to call you. And so you don't have to follow up with those as much. Let's be honest, they're higher quality leads. They are ready to work with you now. Meta, on the other hand, it's not going to be as high quality. Even if you do the highest tier, your booking rate might only be 40%, 50%. And that depends heavily on how you follow up. So make sure you are following up. And you're like, well, Matt, I don't know how to follow up. I don't want to follow up. I just want the appointment. Well, there's companies that are booking companies. And what they do is they will take your leads, if you have enough leads, and they will call and they will schedule and they will work until they're on the calendar. And so cool thing is we've been testing this. And so we have a company now that has a lot of lead generation and they're getting calls. They're doing Angie leads. They're also doing Meta. They're doing Google. They're all kinds of things. So this company's up. I mean, gosh, they're going to be up 200% on some months this year. This month, they're going to have another record month. But this company is calling their, Angie leads, and really it was just their Angie leads. And so I said, hey, let's build in all of our Meta form fills and let's call these as well. And so they're calling them and they're booking them, excuse me. And so it's working great. And so if you follow up very, very quickly and you have a call center doing it, or you're doing it, or somebody on your team doing it, you're going to get a lot more calendar bookings and a lot of chances to go out and serve these customers and give estimates and things like that. So I want to talk now about a little bit about the remarketing Pixel and setting up Pixels on your account. And so the last thing I will tell you is after the form fill is that you are going to want to set up some sort of remarketing campaign. And most people don't do this. It's surprising that they don't. But we do this. And so you can actually add a Meta Pixel onto your website, and it will basically see all of the people who are visiting your site. You can then use that as an audience, and you can say, hey, everybody who visit our website, let's create an audience for them. And by creating these audiences, you can then remarket to them. You can also create a remarketing campaign for anyone who clicks on your form on Meta, but they don't fill it out. So imagine this, they're thinking about filling out the form and then they don't. Now you can create a separate ad set that targets only those people. And here's what I'll tell you. It is very, very, very powerful, because imagine you see an ad, you don't really fill it out, and then a few minutes later, they see another ad from the same company like, hey, don't miss out. And it gives them a chance. So that is called remarketing. So what we're doing is we create a pixel for all of our clients, and because they get a lot of traffic from Google and from organic and other sources like that, we create this pixel so now they will get onto a new remarketing campaign. And so as soon as they go and they visit now Meta or like Instagram or Facebook, whatever they're on, maybe they just left our client's website and it's going to say, hey, let's connect these. And then what's cool is they could see a form fill where they can request a quote if they didn't request a quote on the website. So you can create audiences based on, hey, did these people fill out a form? And if they didn't fill out a form, then we can create an audience on to say, hey, let's target them. So there's lots of different ways you can do remarketing with a pixel, but this is the strategy, and I'll kind of lay it out here for you again. A really great creative, couple of videos, a couple of images, long copy that's engaging, the Meta form fills with two-factor authentication on, highest quality lead intents, going into a system for follow-up, whether that's someone in your office, a CRM system to send some texts and emails, super important that happens. Someone calls them right away. And then if they are visiting your website through Google Ads or they are clicking on your Meta forms but don't complete it, you want to create an audience. And then you're going to set a couple of ad campaigns up for remarketing. And I'll walk you through the recommended budget and everything here in just a second. So you can see there is a formula for this and there is a process for doing this. And so what I want to do now as we wrap up this podcast is I want to talk to you about ROI budget and expectations, so that you can measure success the right way. And this is what everyone asks. How much should you spend? What kind of results should you expect? And it varies. And I think that that answer sucks. I agree, but it varies. And it varies based on where you're at. It varies based on your industry. It varies based on the competition that's there and what they are running. It also varies based on, just what the market is like, what the economy is like, and the need or demand for that service. And so here's what I'm going to tell you. You have to test, but I'm going to tell you some numbers that we are seeing on just on an average of industry. So it'll give you a better idea of what we're seeing. And then you can try things out. So for most companies, what I would start with is $100 per day. So it's $3,000 a month. And it's hard for me to fathom if you set it up the right way. Like I've told you on the podcast today, you would not get at least your money back, $3,000 in profit. And I'll explain this to you. And so sometimes when you're testing and scaling, to scale, you have to test things, right? And that's what I think some business owners don't understand. They want to spend money and they want an instant return. And like, yes, we want that for you too. But to get to there, we have to spend to break even at first so that then we can spend to scale as you fine tune your ads. And so with Google Ads, with Meta Ads, with everything, as you set them up, you have to optimize them, and it takes time to optimize. And so what I would start off is with $100 a day. And keep in mind, I'm sharing information to the whole world on our podcast. I'm not saying you're a client, so there's nothing in this for me. I'm telling you what to do as a business owner if you were to set this up yourself. But this is how we're doing it for clients. So $100 a day, because it allows you to generate leads almost every day, like hopefully 2 to 3 leads every day. Could be more on some days, but you should generate a lead every day, which will allow you to keep growing that. And the way I would break it down is most of that money spent on the lead form, the cold lead campaign, which is like your two videos, your 2 images, it's the form fill, it's the long copy. Most of your money should be spent there. I would say probably $80 to $90 would be spent there, with the other money spent on remarketing, and that is targeting people who you just missed on your website, or who saw the form but didn't fill it out. Now that will give Meta enough daily data to learn and optimize. Remember, this is a lot of AI at work. If you can run a little bit less, but it will slow down the algorithms and the learning phase, so it makes things less predictable. One of the things I've been learning about Meta is the more you touch an ad and mess with it, the worse it is. And because every time that process starts over. And so you got to have a little bit of time for it to breathe. But for every campaign that I've set up over the last, even the last month, on average, if they're doing $100 a day, they are getting good leads almost every day. 2 of them with just the long form fill at $100 a day, 1 to 2 leads a day, averaging right around $50 per lead. Some days they're more, some days they're less, depending on the weekend. And these leads are actually converting to calendar appointments. So with what I'm telling you, this formula, this is what we're seeing right now. So if you're getting leads at $50, and it could be less depending on your competition, your industry, I think we have some clients that are less, some are more, but I'm just telling you $50 a lead. And let's say you go out and you for that month and you generate, $50 a lead times, 3,000 divided by, 50, you're going to have 60 leads. Out of those 60 leads that come through, we're hoping if you have good follow-up and you're calling and doing this, you should have 20 appointments, right? That's 33%, 33 appointments. And if the 33 appointments, what is your closing rate? Only you know that when you go out and you close people. And let's say your closing rate is, let's say it's 50%, just to make it easy. That would give you 10 deals that month. You have to figure out all of this before you can figure out your return on investment. Only you can do that. But I'm giving you a example of how this works. Now, maybe your projects are lower dollar, and so your ads may need to target the higher dollar items. You have to figure all of that out. But let's say if you can get leads for $30 and you increase your closing rate, like there's a lot of variables in here. But what I'm telling you that we're seeing is for $100 a day, clients can get 60 really good leads. They could get even more if they, turn down the qualifications on the form. But for most of our clients, they don't have time to call, 10 times a day. They want the highest quality leads so that they can just call and book and get started. So I would start with that. 60 leads, if you can book, say if you're right on top of them and you can book them really fast and you call them and you're on top, imagine if you could get half of those to convert to appointments. That could be 30 appointments a month. So pretty strong in regards to for that money. Now, you could be in an industry or an area that costs more. It could be more competitive. It could be less. There's all of these variables that you need to realize. And so the only way you'll know is if you spend money and test. So $100 a day, that's well worth it for that. But here's the thing. The creative takes time to make. It's got to be a good creative. You got to have the automation in place and be ready to call. It doesn't have to be crazy automation in place, but you should have that in place. So you got to get a couple of these things ready. So one of the questions I'm getting is like, Matt, what is the average cost per lead you're seeing? $30 to $50 for home service industries. Some are going to be more, some are going to be less, depending on how frequent people need these services or what you're selling. Quality matters more than volume. So remember, these are verified 2-factor authentication. They definitely are interested in filling out the form. So it is a legit lead. And sometimes people will even put a date in the field, say, hey, when do you want us out there? And they can give a suggested date. Now, early on, it's going to fluctuate. It may be more. So some leads may cost you $100 that day, but you can't look at it at the daily level. You have to look at it in like the weekly or monthly level for what does it work out to be on a monthly basis. And remember, when you're putting these 4 creatives in there, Meta's determining which one works the most, and then they're going to start using it based on that data as the campaign is optimized. So it's going to take a little bit of time, but it should be really, really strong. So you can't measure it by a 1-day view or a 1-week view. Look at it over the course of 30 days. And I would say you probably need to look at a 60-day window for testing this out. And so if we end up selling a package like this, right now we don't sell lead gen packages, but it's something, Jeff and I have talked about a little bit. But if we did, we wouldn't let people test it for less than 60 days because it takes that 60 days to figure out the return on investment. So this is how you need to do this if you're trying it on your own, whatever you're doing. This is what I would do. I would do a full 60-day window. And after 60 days, you could pause it or, keep it running maybe 15 more days so it doesn't turn off, if you feel like you're getting good leads. And what you need to look at is out of that, say you run it for 60 days and there's 120 leads on there, you need to look at how many appointments you had. And then you'll be able to see the cost per lead, the total spend, which would probably be about $6,000 if you do my recommendation. How much did it cost per book job? And then really you're going to be able to figure out your return on investment, which is your revenue divided by your ad spend. You can even look at profit divided by your ad spend. The main thing is are you building a profit in there? And if you're having a chance to go give estimates and there are big dollar jobs and it's going to help you grow your business, I mean, if you generate 60 leads at $50 a lead and you book 20 jobs and get, $40,000 in revenue, you got a 13 times return on investment. And is that good, Matt? Is that bad? Well, here's what you have to compare that to. What is it on Google and what is it on, local or organic, all of these options. And so the only way you know that is if you measure your marketing in the first place. And so if you're new to our podcast, you need to go way back to the very first few episodes in our core training where we talk about measurable marketing. And once you know what your ROI is, like by doing this, then you can figure out how to optimize. And that's when you make new campaigns with winning creatives and you tweak forms and you make changes, every 4 to 6 weeks. And Google, based on the data you're learning, and as you continue to make improvements and improve your ad and your copy, you're going to see more leads come in. So I will tell you, none of the marketing you see online is magic. Like Google ads isn't magic. Meta ads aren't magic. It's math. All right. When you create the right creatives, the forms and the follow up, and you have all of the tracking working together, Meta AI is going to do the heavy lifting, but it's because you did the right things in place. You had the follow-up in place. You had the right creatives. And I would say, start with $100 a day and try for 60 days and track your real return on investment. Once it's dialed in, this becomes a predictable lead source that you can use alongside of Google, alongside of local SEO, as part of a full Grow Inc. campaign. And so I tell you, it's just one of the tools. And so I see a lot of ads, from advertisers. And I'm going to tell you what I see all the time. I will go on Meta, on Facebook or Instagram, and I'll see an ad for like, I guarantee you this many booked appointments, and this amount of time or your money back, something like that. And it will be specific to industry. Now, if you're on Meta, you've probably already seen ads like this. And you're like, Matt, it seems like they're guaranteeing it's going to work. And are they being truthful? Like, is it really going to work? And I will say, yes. A lot of them know what they're doing. Last year, we had a client who really was set on Meta, and they had this Meta guy that was going to do all these ads, and just, that was the answer and the solution. And I said, that's fine, go for it. And here's what I'll tell you. If the only type of marketing you do is Meta ads, you're in a bad place, because you have all of your eggs in one basket, and it is very, very competitive on Meta. It's very, very competitive for service businesses. And so to win, what they are doing is they're doing exactly what I'm telling you in this podcast today. So over the last, few months, we've been in coaching groups and learning a whole lot about Meta ads and some of the new targeting that's come out, and basically paying for consulting ourselves, and then setting up ads ourselves to figure out what works for Grow and what works for our clients. And here's what I'm going to tell you: this formula, it's going to be crazy. And so clients, we have some clients that have grown by 150% year over year, and they're crushing it. And now they're adding on Meta to the mix, and the lead volume is high quality, and they're converting. And I see their calendar, and they're going to have some crazy months ahead, really good months ahead. But I would say it would be very dangerous to do marketing and just do Meta. I mean, it's cool. I'm glad it's a new channel that we can target. And with these new Meta forms, it's given us much higher quality leads. So yeah, that's cool. And there's a lot of spam on Google. So I love taking money away from Google. But here's what I know, you can't, if you're building your whole entire business on Meta, one algorithm change could ruin everything for you. And so you never want to put all of your eggs in one basket. You want to put your money out there, and then you want to measure it, and you want to reallocate what is working wherever you're getting the best ROI. And so for clients that are growing, they may be spending $5,000 on Google, which is giving them a great ROI. And I can see a ton of leads coming through, but they are also going to be investing in Meta. They're also going to be investing in local SEO and organic SEO, and they're going to be emailing their database each month. They're going to have a good, strong, unique selling point. They're going to have a referral program. They're going to do all of the right things so they can win. Now, if you are a new listener, I want to tell you about a couple cool resources we have and some new things that we got coming out pretty soon at Grow Inc. So if you are new to our podcast, I want to encourage you to pick up a copy of our Marketing Blueprint book. It is the exact blueprint for how we help companies in your industry grow by more than 400%. And it's basically wrapped into 4 steps. I'll tell you everything you need to do in a 100-page book. It's yours free, and you can grab a copy at gro.inc. Yes, .inc is our domain website, ending grow.inc. And so I encourage you to check that out. That book is available in MP3 format. You can also listen to it in the format. You can also read it in the format on Kindle, on Google, or on your Apple devices. So you can read it on an iPad if you want. We also have some cool resources, which I have our most important training episodes on our podcast or stored there, so you can listen to those. We just added a 4-part video series that goes through the 4 steps that we use to grow businesses. So you'll find that there as well. That's all free of charge. And why we do that is we basically educate people, help them learn and grow. And then if they need help one day and they say, hey, Matt, I've been listening, I'd like you to help us do this, then we end up taking them on as clients. And so that's why we just give away a ton of free resources and help out there. I will say, if you are just new listening to the podcast, go back and listen to those first 12 key episodes. It'll really help you understand the blueprint for growth. And by the way, if you have been listening to our podcast for a long time and you find it helpful and informative, I would really love it if you would be sure to leave us a like on our podcast, or maybe a comment and subscribe to it, because it helps the algorithms know that, hey, what we're doing is providing value. And if you are ready to grow your service business and you've been listening a long time and you're trying all this stuff that doesn't work, or maybe even talking to agencies and your agency isn't winning or your agency isn't working, and you're like, Matt, I want a second opinion. Well, if you go over to Grow Inc. and you request our free resources, you can find a button to apply. And we'll be able to set up a quick combo and talk about all that you're doing. Would be happy to talk to you and just give you some suggestions and free advice. It's all available at grow.inc. So thank you for listening, and I hope you have an amazing day.
Thanks for listening to the podcast today. We hope you found today's episode helpful and informative. For more information about Grow Inc. and to request our free Marketing Blueprint ebook and other resources, please visit www.grow.inc. That's GRO.inc. We'll catch you in the next episode.